Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are, whoever you are. Welcome once again to Anime Octane, the show in which we, the folks at Nerd Caliber, take a look at a recent anime product that is either currently ongoing or has just finished streaming. And maybe some days we'll take a deep look at some older stuff. And we talk about it in depth in a very spoilery fashion. So
Yes.
this is a spoilery show, folks, and what we are spoiling tonight is the second season of Beastars, the
The
Netflix
series,
anime.
the series that launched 1,000 furries.
Or certainly got a whole bunch of people to realize that they might have been. So if you have not seen the second season, or for that matter, the first season of Beastars, because you can't really talk about season two without talking about season one,
Yeah.
and you don't like spoilers, you should probably find something else to watch. If you have seen it or you don't care about spoilers, feel free to hang around in the chats on our various social medias where we're streaming this live on Twitch, on Facebook Live, and of course on YouTube. I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor in chief of Nerd Caliber, first person shooter on Facebook as a cosplay photographer, Burley_adopter on Twitter, and a couple of other places. Joining me tonight is my fellow in weebness, Byron.
Hey,
Introduce yourself.
hello, my Nerd Caliber Nation. It is your boy Byron D0. Real name, Christian name Byron McNeil. If we want to get into that, but yeah, contributing writer for Nerd Caliber, social media dude, um, video content creator on occasion, wearing a bunch of other hats. More to come. Um, I also do stuff on Instagram. I have my artist Insta, which is BD0 Art. That's BDZRO Art, and I have a YouTube channel, which I currently posted a review of season 2 of the Stars, but I need to edit it because I screwed up the audio.
Oops. Oops. Well, that happens when you're a one-man show on your own channel. So,
Right?
thankfully, we have here the resources of Nerd Caliber, where I have people who have a lot more experience with that, our founder Manny, to handle that sort of stuff on our end. In the chat already, welcome Macaroni and Cheese, although you did post that a while ago, so if you're still there and you still want to watch after the spoiler warning, welcome. Duolingo, goodbye. You didn't say hello, but goodbye anyway. I'm going to go with Mini Knox. Mini Knox, welcome to the show. Hebert Galagos, hi, welcome to the show. And once again, if you just jumped in, because I thought I saw you post up just then and there, we are going to be spoiling Beastars, particularly season 2, but season 1 as well, because like I said, you can't talk about season 2 without season 1. So consider that a spoiler warning. What we do is we start off and we talk about where this stuff came from. So the anime Beastars is an adaptation of a serialized manga that started in 2016 in a
Yeah.
magazine I had not heard of in Japan, Weekly Shonen Champion.
It's a seinen series, right?
Yeah, it is. It's basically a seinen series. It is more serious than it is funny. It is more dramatic than it is action oriented. It's a seinen series. It was created by Paru Itagaki and ran until October 2020. So it is done, and that is 22 collected volumes. So there's plenty of material out there for the anime to continue running. And oh, by the way, we missed this last Nerd Week Live news show, but on the day that we go live, they announced that there would be a season 3.
Well, of course, they considering how good it was.
Well, it is. Yeah, we'll get to that. It is really good. But it also, this is not the spoilery part, it ends at a point where they could have comfortably ended the series. And I'm glad they're not going to. But anyway, the story is based around a bunch of high school students at Cherryton Academy,
Yeah.
which is a high school student in a world where everybody is an anthropomorphic animal.
Yes.
Um, and Hebert, we are right. Thank you. I hope we're right about something in what we said. I'm going to assume that actually mean that it's a really good show. And in that case, yes, thank you that you agree. Our main character is the wolf that's in the scene or the image right in
Legoshi.
front of you, Legoshi. Um, and
Which, fun fact, he was named after Bela Lugosi.
this is true. And I sort of assumed that right out of the gate, even though he has the
Me
sort of
too.
SH pronunciation of an S in the middle of a sentence that the Japanese like to do. And the story in the first season and continuing into the second season centers around the fact that, of course, the world is divided into herbivores and carnivores. That one of Legoshi's friends and a fellow member of the drama club, which is what they were in that image that you just looked at, was killed and devoured by obviously a carnivore. That's the mystery. The second main storyline is that Legoshi finds himself incredibly attracted to a fairly diminutive lop rabbit named Haru. So in actually, again, both seasons, that is essentially the story.
Yes.
The mystery, the people around the mystery, the students, and the relationship such that it is between Legoshi and Haru. And particularly in the first season, the relationship between Legoshi's senpai, the most well-regarded of all of the drama club members, Louis, a red deer, and Haru's relationship with Louis. So that's the gist of it. Who killed Tem and ate him? And what's going to happen to the kind of triangle between Legoshi, Haru, and Louis? And that's just the barest bones of how this story and this world gets developed over the course of these two seasons. So what we do now is we talk about what we liked about season 2. And again, Byron's going to start. Byron, feel free to talk. Yeah,
Yes.
you're probably going to have to talk about elements of season 1 because you just can't avoid it.
Okay.
What worked? What did they shoot for and actually hit? Take it away.
All right. Well, there's a lot to like about this season. I like the fact that it picks up right where it left off, where you have the consequences from season 1 with Louis killing the then leader of the Shishigumi, the lion yakuza in this world, and they're just like, okay, we need to fill this power vacuum, and this would be a good look for us. Like, this would be a way for us to gain more respect and not just be seen as a bunch of heartless killers. I love the politics behind that, and I love the drama of that entire subplot, because you have Louis, a character who is well established in season 1 that he has a huge identity crisis. Like, he has no idea who he, like, to him, all this being the prince of Cherryton Academy, being like the top pick for the Beastar, the next Beastar, it's all just another role for him, because he has no idea who he truly is. He just, like, since the day he was bought out of slavery, he's always been playing a role.
Yep.
And
so let's just expand on that a little bit, because Hebert mentions this. Don't forget about the black market for carnivores. Louis, we finally find near the end of season 1 that Louis' backstory is that he was basically a child sold to the black market to eventually be eaten by whatever carnivore decided that it wanted to pay the amount of money for a young red deer. And he was bought out of that by an incredibly wealthy leader of a conglomerate that also happens to be a deer.
yes,
And raised in that wealth from literally from accepting the fact that he was going to be somebody's meal as soon as somebody decided they wanted to pay enough for him. So yeah, that's the very beginning of Louis' identity problems.
Yes, and that storyline hits home on so many levels. Just you can parallel it to real world child trafficking
Yep.
and how gross that can get. Like you definitely feel for Louis, but at the same time, I try not to feel bad for him because I relate to him so much. I relate to him so much because he doesn't want to be pitied. It's like I've paid my dues. I earn I did what I had to do to get here. So don't pity me.
And he is a deeply prideful individual.
Oh, absolutely. And which makes his dynamic with Legoshi so fascinating
Right.
because he like as someone who's used to putting on airs, he can he can see that Legoshi is lying to himself. That and he respects Legoshi for his power and his strength, but he just wants him to be his most authentic self, to live his most authentic life.
Yep.
And that's like the main arc of this season. That was the thing that really grabbed me because I relate to Legoshi on so many levels. Like, I'm sure it's not lost on you the allegories of racism in this story. Like
Um, and
carnivore.
it's less obvious and much more um, uh, intricate and complex than Zootopia,
Oh,
but it
absolutely.
kind of has the same uh, gist of the fact that carnivores are feared, discriminated against because of the, in this case, real world issue of their insane power.
Yes.
Um, and so, yeah, but are those fears irrational? It's, yeah, you're right. There is a deep, deep racism undercurrent here, but it's way more complex than something as simple as Zootopia.
Yes. And that's yeah. I've thought long and hard about that for ages now too. Like Zootopia, like Zootopia was hampered by being a Disney product. This IP doesn't have that to worry about. The mangaka was able to tell a truly relatable story about being marginalized and about oppression without having to worry about filling in theater seats or trying to sell toys. And it shows
Yep.
because something that I a term that I discovered recently within my community is being othered, which as a black man who doesn't necessarily fit the mold, I found myself being too like being too black for the white kids and not black enough for my own people. And I feel Legoshi had to deal with a similar struggle growing up because he's a carnivore that doesn't necessarily want to kill. He never had like he just wants to live a quiet life.
Yep.
And he doesn't want any trouble. He doesn't want he like especially for the first half of season 1, he kind of just wants to be left alone. He doesn't want to stand out. He doesn't want to do anything. But it isn't until like the end of season 2 that you start to see him build up some sort of resolve and understand that he can't just hide in the back. He has he has a responsibility to not only himself but the people that he cares about to be more than just a side character in someone else's story.
Yes. He has a huge role to play, not only in his own story and the story of the people around him, but Louis comes to realize that probably in the story of the future of the relationship between carnivores and herbivores. So
Absolutely.
essentially the whole world. Yeah, I agree. It's well, I'll get into that in my part.
Yeah, and I as much as I am enjoying the love story between Haru and Legoshi. I like the fact that this season it took a back seat, just because I I don't know. I just didn't. I like the fact that Legoshi was able to become hit to develop on his own without having to simply be associated with his relationship with Haru,
Yeah.
and seeing those cringy moments like in season 1 where he like squishes the paint against his face and he's just like ugh. Like I cringed kind of hard with that scene.
Yeah, most of my cringe in this has been actually scenes that were intentionally cringeworthy. The first
Anything with
time you
Riz
see
in it?
somebody in the black market selling their own body parts,
Yes,
I
rightfully
just
so.
that was absolutely, yeah, shudder cringing.
I speaking of like that aspect, the scene where Legoshi eats Louis' foot.
Yeah, that's huge, huge spoiler. But again, we're talking spoilers.
Yes,
Um,
poetic though.
so go on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's extremely poetic because it was the first time. I feel like it was the first time that Louis was truly being himself, like not being the child of a conglomerate, not being this puppet figurehead of the Shishigumi, not being the Prince of Cherryton Academy, but just being Louis.
Yeah. Um, Hebert asked, "Did you talk about the new member of the drama club, Pina?"
Yeah, Pina. Yes, that's his name. Oh,
Not
Pina.
yet, really.
Pina's. I'm not sure how to feel about Pina yet. Like, he's definitely interesting. I just I can't read him yet.
Yeah, he is an agent of chaos.
Yes,
Yeah, he is
definitely
the
a soul.
Loki of this story. He comes in. He's as charming as Loki and as handsome, and he comes in and he basically just wants to f things up.
Yep.
And the fact that he's able to do that and not die is pretty amazing. Um, he's a very interesting character, but I agree with you. Other than the fact that he's pretty much just there so far to be an agent of chaos, I don't have much of a handle on him yet either.
I will say I loved Riz as an antagonist
Yes.
because like every scene that he was in made my skin crawl. Even when he wasn't speaking, even when he was still just like not talking, when he was just it was just like his burly hand smashing Legoshi's face into the locker. I'm just like, oh shit.
Even when he's just cooking. The thing is, I mean, Riz is a bear. He's a brown bear. He's huge. He's over 2 meters tall. So he's 6'7", 6'6" or 6'7". And but he has bear eyes. Most of them have big sort of anime eyes. Legoshi's eyes are huge.
Yes.
Riz's eyes are little black dots. And let me actually, the shot that I have of Riz is of the two of them fighting, so you can't really see his eyes.
Yes.
But they're mostly presented as little black dots, and that's just, it's like looking at a shark.
Yes, it is.
Like there's no way of knowing really what's behind those little black dots.
Yeah, there are certain animals in this series in the art style where they either have the more humanist eyes, or they have or they have the more anatomically correct eyes to their respective species.
Yeah, most of them have pretty human eyes. Even, I would say the most wasted character, Six Eyes.
Oh yes.
The giant rattlesnake that is the only security guard at Cheriton School has beautiful and very Egyptian, kohl-surrounded, mascaraed female eyes. Six Eyes is a female rattlesnake. And it's kind of a shame that character just literally does nothing after, after
Hopefully
her.
we'll see more of her season 3.
Yeah, I hope so. after her purpose in the first couple of episodes to sort of establish some more information about, who killed Tim. And that's it. Done. So.
Well, yeah, I definitely found Six Eyes to be interesting, and yeah, again, wasted. And
It's
I've read some of the manga here and there, but I haven't really read up on Six Eyes, so I'm gonna have to check back just to see like if she plays a bigger role because God, I hope so.
Rokume. That's Six
So
Eyes' actual
Japanese.
name.
Okay, I like that one. I like that better. That's what I'm gonna call it from now on. Rokume.
Yeah. So other things that you liked about it?
Yeah, other things. The I love the resolution with Legoshi's arc in this season, where after the fight and after he got arrested, he now has this criminal record, which it's more telling of Japanese society where a lot of where citizens tend to be turned into pariahs whenever they get arrested for something.
Yeah.
But again, I liken it more to American racism, where it's just like, as a person of color, if I have a criminal record, even if I wasn't necessarily guilty of it, there's a good chance that I'm going to have to live with that for the rest of my life.
Yep. And live with the consequences of that as a black person, which is completely different than the consequences of, say, the same act for me.
Yeah.
I mean, neither of them are great consequences, but they are definitely a lot worse for a person of color than they are for somebody with this skin tone.
Yeah, and that's another example where where I relate to Legoshi, because they said in the end, yeah, this is going to be a problem for him in the growing up, but he's okay with it because again, he knows what he wants to do. He's no longer just standing in the background. He's taking action.
Yep.
And I love the development for him. Also, I don't know if you probably watched the sub of it, but the dub is amazing.
Yeah, I did watch the sub, and I'm going to get into that because that was a huge fail. But that will be in my things I didn't like. All right, so if you're all wrapped up, I'm going to go into things I liked.
Okay.
But before that, I'm going to... Hebert asks, so what was your favorite episode? So, from a resolution standpoint, the final episode.
Same.
From just an episode standpoint, the one where we first see actual... where they're both aware of it, physical contact, physical fighting between Legoshi and Riz. And I don't remember what episode that is. But, when they're fighting in the bathroom, just, tense as all get out,
very minimalist, too.
Hmm?
Very minimalist, too.
Yeah. But even, when the janitor, Gopher?
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember what she was.
Chipmunk.
Knocks on the door, and Legoshi is just absolutely terrified that Riz is just going to go kill her. And you really feel that because at this point, he could have. This show does that, shocking you with levels of violence that, allows you to set up the fact that, that could be where the show goes.
I also love the scene where in the final fight where Legoshi comes down from being basically imprinted into a tree. He just sits down and he's like, let's talk. I want to hear your story. I'm kind of I'm just thinking is he buying time? No, he's actually listening.
Well, yeah, he is actually listening, but I got the impression he also might have been buying time. That he was still holding out the hope that...
fight for 100, Alex.
Yeah. Well, he was still holding out hope that Louis might show up. Even though he wasn't there at the beginning. All right, so things I liked about it. Most of the things that Byron has said, and most of the stuff that carries over from season 1. Studio Orange has done something with combining primarily 3D with 2D animation in an innovative and beautiful way that nobody else has done. Not even UFO Table, with their brilliant compositing of background CG, and some fight special effects CG into the 2D animation of Demon Slayer. Because this is almost entirely 3D animated, 2D drawn animation. It's just beautiful. It's really hard to describe without actually seeing it, seeing the motion and the fluidity, how good it is. And the fact that they restrain themselves from doing, for the most part, really ridiculous. There aren't giant mechs here, so you're not seeing Sakaga fights where the camera spins through the sky and makes you want to hurl. There's a little bit of there's
All right, camera trouble.
Okay. There's a little bit of some stuff where it's clear that you can't actually do what's being done with a normal camera, but the very barest minimum of that, as opposed to most 3D CG where they just go wild with it. And then the creative use of other animation styles. In the black tunnel in the encounter between Louis and Ibuki,
Yes.
it's all black with white outlines. That's probably 2D animation, but it's so fluid that it's probably also animated using 3D tools.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Also, I love how they positioned the ending theme at the beginning of that scene into the beginning of that episode.
It was beautiful foreshadowing. Or no, at that point it was beautiful sort of look back at what had happened, because it ends with the gunshot.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the beginning of the episode we find out that it was Free who did exactly what Ibuki basically told him to do.
That scene hurt.
That scene hurt. Well, there's a lot of scenes in here that hurt. The other thing, I really like the fact that this is Legoshi's growth arc.
Yes.
And he starts out essentially where he was at the end of season 1. He's still trying desperately to figure out how he's going to find out who killed Tem, what's going to happen with his relationship with Haru, and that gets puts on a back burner pretty quickly.
Yes.
And I am a little less happy with that movement. I get it. This is Legoshi's growth arc. This entire season is about Legoshi going from, the absolute epitome of what's supposed to be a carnivore in this world, somebody who doesn't eat meat, and is absolutely fine with that, and is mild-mannered, and so on, to somebody who eventually comes through almost going as far in the opposite direction as he can get, to the realization that he is a carnivore, and that carnivores are, they're designed to do something, and if they don't do it, it's against their nature.
Yes.
And that it is possible to live with that awareness and still be a good person to the world in general, and to your herbivore friends and so on. Which in a way makes me a little concerned and confused about the whole racism message. It's not as bad as Brand New Animal. If you want to hear my take or see my take on that, go to our website, nerdcaliber.com, and look up BNA, or Brand New Animal. That was, wow. the message they were giving as a supposedly aware and woke story about not terribly subtle racism was awful.
I never finished it.
Oh, it was about as racist as you could get. Oh, it's anyway. That's a different anime. But because this anime is so incredibly complex at how it deals with its subject matter, I'm not worried about the fact that there's the potential that, accepting your more bestial instincts for the group of people that are, the more oppressed group within the show might be a bad message. We don't know what message it is right now yet. And this show is so complex that, it's probably going to be something that I'm not even anticipating.
Yeah. There definitely is, like, I feel like the complexity of it is what is part of the mystique of it. Like, it's that, because like when we talk about race relations in America, there is no clear line of how to fix things.
Right.
And that's the thing about it that makes it work.
And that's what this show is. There is no clear line on how to solve the problem of the interaction of carnivores and herbivores that result in carnivores eventually trying to kill somebody and eat them. So, I really like that. Basically, let's get down to calling it just the complexity of the overall message and the story. I like the fact that they are, again, willing to go way down the weird path. And I don't mean just, people are furries. I mean going all the way down the path of, like having Legoshi basically trip balls on a moth or caterpillar. That scene is just wild. Where do I have it here?
I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that so much.
But it's important in that it defines to Legoshi what the concept of eating life is about.
Yes.
As somebody who has literally he spent training. Where's my Zen photo? So Gohan, the giant panda from the first season, who has become sort of his senpai in investigations and handling
Yes.
sort of criminal activity, cuts all his hair down to super short, which means he gets rid of all the dark gray, and he becomes essentially a white wolf with short hair.
Yes.
And then Legoshi asks him to basically allow him to train himself to not be interested in meat. So he locks himself in a cell in Gohan's facility with a hind quarter of something hanging up in front of him every night for weeks. And it's just amazing, the depiction of that, the fact that he gets to that state where literally the scent of blood, fresh meat, nothing has any effect on him. And ICU 911 woman, welcome to the show. We are discussing the second season of Beastars, the Netflix anime. If you have not seen it, we're spoiling it. We're talking about it in detail. So if you do not like spoilers and you haven't seen it, you probably want to watch something else. If you have seen it or you don't mind spoilers, absolutely hang on and put your comments in and let us know what you think. Yeah. So where was I going with that? His whole story arc goes from him trying to think he can get as far away from being a carnivore as possible to eventually realizing that it is possible to be a carnivore, to actually do carnivore things. And Louis' story arc gets to the point where, he can be an herbivore in the sense of, to some extent, being prey for a carnivore. And Byron has already mentioned this, and to bring up the image here again. Super spoiler, folks. Super spoilery image. Oop, that's fade to black. Well, good. That gave everybody an extra second. So the only way Legoshi is able to beat Riz, this giant black bear who Legoshi discovers is the one who actually killed Tem, is Louis offers him, to eat him, offers his body for Legoshi to eat, and Legoshi realizes that he doesn't want to take it up as sort of an offering like that, but he will do it because he wants to, and eats his lower leg, one of his lower legs. And that gives him, as you can see from that image, Legoshi is just huge. It gives him the power that he needs to actually finally, successfully confront Riz and kill him. Not kill him, stop him. And it's really, so the conclusion, again, we're getting back to the complexity. The conclusion has them both defeated so badly, or beaten so badly, but Riz ultimately knocked out. There's no way he can fight back. That when the police show up, somebody reports the fighting and so on. The police show up, and Legoshi's goal and Lewis's goal and everybody else's basically goal of not having the police involved. Legoshi wants to bring Riz to Gohin to get him to stop being somebody who is tempted to devour herbivores. And that doesn't happen. We don't get that resolution that Louis wants. He gets arrested. He gets off, essentially, after Louis tells his story and so on, but the arrest is still on his record. He has a criminal arrest, which doesn't get expunged, and that may be a Japanese thing. If you get arrested in the United States and it either doesn't go to court or you don't, or your trial, you're found guilty or it's thrown out of court or whatever, the arrest is expunged or can be expunged. That doesn't happen here. So I think that, again, that level of complexity is really excellent about this show. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I really liked about it. Oh, the OP, the opener, is again another beautiful song. Nothing can be the banger of the original.
Absolutely not. Wild Side is.
Wild Side is a great song. The animation that was done is all stop motion animation, which isn't anything that Studio Orange does. It's just so different than everything else in the show. It just made the opening of the first season, epic. Literally, 1 in 1,000.
It definitely felt like a sophomore entry.
Yeah, but a really good one. It is a really good opener. I'll give them that. If Wild Side didn't exist, this would be like, oh my god, that's a banger.
I feel like it suited the art.
Yes.
Which is focusing. It was focusing heavily on the murder mystery angle.
Yes. Which is what this arc is mostly about. So that's pretty much my major pluses. Beautifully animated, incredibly written, deep, complex story. Wonderful characters. The complexity of the world that they're in and what they're trying to say about the world that we're in. We've just really touched the surface. And I can't wait for season 3 to see how they take that even deeper and further. So we've been rambling, which I guess doesn't make. It's not surprising because there's so much good to say about this. But Byron, not good. What didn't you like? What didn't work for you?
I gotta say I didn't really care much for those cutaway scenes with Haru. I just kind of found myself like, I get that we have to be reminded that she's here, but I don't know, they just kind of annoyed me.
Yeah, I can see that. I didn't mind them so much just for that sole reason. It's like, oh yeah, Haru still exists, and they still need to do something with that storyline.
Yes.
Yeah, but I get that. Other things?
Uh, honestly, I could have stand it. I could have stood for two more episodes, but that's just me.
Yeah, it was. I think they did it. They wrapped it up nicely in it was 12 episodes, which is standard. That's pretty typical for an
Yes.
anime. Um, I don't know that I would have wanted two more. I think this season had the potential for more so even than the first season.
Mhm.
I think the pacing in this season was better.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
all right, so
Um,
oh, go ahead.
no, I'm saying, yeah, not a lot. There wasn't a lot to dislike in this season.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I was less bothered by the lack of Haru, and in fact, I think that's one of the things I kind of is a minor knock. And again, like I said, I realize that this is all about Legoshi's growth arc.
Yes.
I kind of wish we did have more Haru because I really like Haru's character and what her character says about women.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Whereas Legoshi in particular, but all of the carnivores are a statement about what an oppressed group of people deal with. Haru's character is a statement about modern sexuality, about
Oh,
women,
absolutely.
um, and she is a shockingly surprising character. Oh, Byron, we lost your
Oh,
video.
yeah. My battery's dying.
Okay. Um, all right. Well, we'll wrap this up real quickly then. I still get your audio though.
Okay.
Um, so so the one thing I really didn't like about this season, and it's only for those people who watched with subtitles, which I did. For some reason, the Japanese translator and the person is identified at the end of the credits in the final season, final episode, and probably more, but I didn't watch the end credits. Um, Decided that Louis is going to be spelled Rui,
Ah, yes, that.
and Haru is Hal, Hal. Now, I understand how that happens, I think, because of the Japanese, the fact that there isn't really an L or R in Japanese. It's a completely different vocalization that we in the West have to call either an L or an R because we don't have that vocalization. We don't have a letter to represent it. And it's kind of exactly in the middle of the pronunciation of those two sounds for us. And when a word from English goes to Japanese with one of those sounds at the end, or almost any consonant at the end, they add the letter U or U to the end
Yeah, they do.
and devocalize it as strongly as possible. So I'm guessing the translator, for whatever reason, heard that, thought since every other name in here is supposed to be not Japanese, or almost every other, there's Haru and then Ibuki, and that's about it.
Yeah.
That it was supposed to be a Western name with the U sound put at the end of it, so they decided it must be the only English. There's no English HAR, so they figured it must be HAL. And that makes it in Japanese. Names are way more commonly used, male or female, gender neutral, than they are in the West. And in fact, Haru, which is a very common Japanese name for men and women. And here's the thing: I don't get how the translator didn't even look at last year's translations, where they got it right, or look at the English translations of the manga, or look at any of the words from the actual mangaka herself, who said that she chose the name Louis because of its connotations to the upper class in Western society. I mean, like literally, it's Louis, and she chose Louis to be like King Louis, Louis the 15th, etc.
Yep.
So it just Anyway, that's really my only gripe about this whole thing, and that's something that is so egregious and stupid. How could Netflix allow this translation to go through without even looking at their own first season?
Well, considering the Ava debacle, I'm not surprised.
Which Ava debacle? Oh well, yeah, well, that was more, I think, a conscious decision on Netflix's part for um, censorship purposes, basically.
I guess.
That wasn't a mistake, I don't think. This is a mistake, like a huge, stupid mistake. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's really my only complaint about this, and the fact that I have to wait another possibly 2 years, hopefully not, but COVID's rearing its ugly head again, so who knows, to get season 3. All right, Byron, quickly. Messages. What is this saying?
Racism exists.
True.
Don't even if you don't see it, even if you choose not to see it, it's still going to rear its ugly head. And the fact that there are creatives like the mangaka for the series telling these kind of stories, it proves it.
I think that's a huge undercurrent to it. I think this season the message is all about kind of like what happened with Loki. It's all about acceptance, growth,
Oh, absolutely.
and acceptance. You know, Louis does too, but Legoshi has to come to a point where he accepts that he is a carnivore and that means certain things. And his journey to get there is a really twisted one. You know, where he runs about as far away from the idea as he possibly could before finally coming around to it. But yeah, all of that, everything in this series is couched around the concept of discrimination. And all the things that come out, just Riz, all the bears, any carnivore over 2 meters has to take muscle atrophying drugs so that they aren't so strong that they pose
Rip off limbs.
Yeah, that they rip off limbs, which is demonstrated in one episode to be something pretty easy to happen.
Yeah.
And again, you just get in. There's that discrimination thing involving medication, unwanted, forced medication. There's a lot in the discrimination stories in this. All right, so Byron is obviously losing his battery on his laptop. So, folks, that's it for our show. Really quick, tomorrow, Nerd Week Live. We've got a ton of topics. Some of them are pretty heavy. Just look up Activision Blizzard. So hopefully we'll see you then. Some of them are pretty fun. Very interesting announcements this past week. This coming Thursday, our Full Fat Spoiler Chat is going to be on the new Netflix animated Resident Evil series, Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. So check it out, folks, if you've seen it, or if you don't mind spoilers, Thursday night, 8 o'clock. And next Monday will be No Nerd Caliber. Not sure what our topic is tonight, and I'm not going to look it up because it's going to take more time, and Byron's battery's going to die. But we'll let you know what the topic is in that show, or I'll let you know tomorrow night, actually. One real quick plug. Go to our website. If you're in the Boston area, go to our website, nerdcaliber.com. We're helping give away free passes to an early screening of The Suicide Squad. It's going to be Tuesday night, August 3rd in Boston, AMC Boston Common Theaters, 7 p.m.
Exciting.
If you get a chance to go there, the links on how to get the tickets are in there. I'm assuming these things are going to go like hotcakes. So, and when they're done, they're done. So if you're in the Boston area and you want to get a shot at that screening, nerdcaliber.com. And with that, the one that I always forget, visit us at Patreon, patreon.com/nerdcaliber. We have just a couple of tiers. They're really low dollar, both of them, and we just want to have you help us get to cons, make more content, and put more good stuff up on YouTube and our website. With that said, Byron, say goodbye, even though nobody can see you.
Yep. Have a good night, guys. Thanks for watching.
And for Byron and myself, have a good night. Stay safe, folks. If you've been paying attention to the news, California and New York City both just put in mandatory either vaccination proof or weekly COVID testing for all officials and all healthcare workers. It's getting bad again. Get vaccinated.
Yes.
It's the right, smart thing to do. Stay safe. And everybody out in the wildfires and the heat dome and everything out west, please, please, please stay safe.
Stay safe.